Hello, and welcome to the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. In this podcast, I will guide you through my faith and mental health journey to dispel the stigma surrounding mental illness and to create an empowering resource for those who wish to discover more about these topics. I pray that this podcast will not only bless you, but that it will bring growth and healing to our communities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a very special episode on Rough Edges. Today is the 4th anniversary of the podcast, and I'm so excited because this not only marks a very grand milestone of 4 years of podcasting, but it also shows that Rough Edges is valuable and that my voice does matter in the long run. So for this episode, I'm going to do 4 different chapters of the podcast. I'm going to talk about how Rough Edges started. I'm also going to talk about how I found my voice. And I'm also going to go over the why of Rough Edges. So I'm going to start off with the why. Why did I create Rough Edges? Why did I decide to do a podcast where I'm sharing about my mental health story, but also my journey of faith and how that connects to mental health? Like, why did I do that? Well, I did that for 4 reasons. 1, to raise mental health awareness in faith-based communities and communities of color. 2, to bring hope and encouragement to those struggling with mental health issues. 3, to show how faith and psychology can connect for proper healing. And lastly, to create an empowering resource for those who want to learn more and to help those who are newly diagnosed to feel less alone. So that is the basis of why I started Rough Edges. And I would also like to share a story about how this podcast went from being a blog to being a podcast. In January of 2021, I got diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder. And it was through that experience that helped me to define what I wanted to do in terms of sharing my story, but I also wanted to help other people feel less alone. And so I was going to do a blog at first. It was going to be little snippets of my experiences with bipolar disorder, and it was also going to be in a diary form where I was going to journal and log all the things that I was going through in terms of like side effects of medicine, in terms of difficulty sleeping at night, in terms of learning how to just manage my bipolar disorder. It was going to be a written blog that people could read. My friend Lydia gave me some great advice in terms of making it a little more tangible for listeners. And she said a podcast would be the best thing. And so at first I was looking at her like, okay, podcast. I don't really like hearing my voice on recordings. Like, I didn't know the first thing about setting up a podcast. And so it wasn't until I was a guest on her show that I decided to then start my show about mental health and what healing looks like in terms of bringing faith into it. Now, faith is a part of this because I grew up in a Christian household and I am also a Christian woman. And my faith has been just the bread and butter of every single aspect of my life. And my faith played a huge role in giving me hope during the hospitalization that I had in the beginning. And even though I was upset at God and I thought he was punishing me by giving me bipolar disorder, I realized that God was with me through the entire thing. Like, he was with me through the diagnosis, he was with me through the hospitalization period, and he was also with me through the treatment plan. And so just because I read my Bible and go to church, that doesn't mean I neglect to take my medicine or go to therapy or have appointments with my psychiatrist so that way I could be taken care of in terms of my mental health and also use my faith as a stepping stone or as a source of hope to guide me through all of that. So that was chapter 1, starting the podcast. Chapter 2 is where my voice matters. So, in this period of the podcast, I was very nervous about speaking about mental health and faith. I thought that people were going to be treating me differently in terms of the mental health stigma, as well as mental health being stigmatized in church. And I thought that when I shared my podcast, especially with my own community, I thought I was going to receive a lot of backlash from it because, one, I was dealing with bipolar disorder. And I wasn't dealing with something that was generalized, like anxiety or depression. You know, those mental conditions people are not as averse to than, say, a schizophrenia or a borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder. So I was already coming out of it with a severe mental health condition. And I didn't know what my community was going to think if they heard that I had a podcast, if they heard about my dealings with bipolar disorder. I didn't know what to expect. But thankfully, I was met with like a lot of love and a lot of warmth. And also, people were telling me that they didn't know about my journey concerning bipolar disorder, and it gave them a lens into what that actually looks like. And I got a lot of different messages from people who also said that they were caring for a loved one that had bipolar disorder and they didn't know what to do really. And it was through my podcast that they started doing a little more research to do better treatment plans with that person. So it was a lot of people that really warmed up to the podcast, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it because it could have been so much worse. I could have been, getting stigmatized. I could have had people just say nasty things, and I've had some opposition in the faith-based communities about how, well, Jesus could heal all things, so why can't we just go to God about it? And usually I would say whenever you have a physical illness, like, a headache or a broken leg or diabetes, you don't say, okay, I'm not going to take my diabetic medication because I can call on Jesus and he'll heal me. Like, we don't say when we have a headache, oh, I'm not taking this Tylenol right now. I am going to pray about it and see what happens. We don't do that for physical illnesses. So why do we do it for mental health? And so in kind of looking at it in that way, because for me, faith and mental health are not mutually exclusive. They go together. They are a great combination of hope that you get from the faith and the treatment plans that you get with the mental health condition. And so utilizing both of them is something that is very important for healing. And that was something that was important for my healing because I didn't just go into one and not the other. Like, I had both of them. I read my Bible and took my medication. I went to church and I went to therapy. So it's a wonderful thing to know that you have that hope, you have that anchor through your faith, and then you also have the informed treatment plan from your psychiatrist and from your therapist to be able to give you the medicine that you need to help you get treated. And for those who are still on the fence about it and saying that Jesus is the ultimate healer, he is, but God also gives the doctors wisdom to help us as we are navigating our journeys. So just keep that in mind. The third chapter is all about gaining momentum. And I have to say, in 4 years of doing Rough Edges, there has been a lot of momentum that has been gained. In 4 years, I have done 6 seasons. The first season was more about a getting to know me type of season. The second season was about mental health advocacy and why that's important. The third season was about relationships, and I even did an episode about caregivers with my mom. The fourth season was about mental health in the media. So movies, TV shows, songs, like that was the fourth season. The fifth season was a solo season where it was just reflections for myself. And the sixth season was men's mental health. And we are still in that season and it is going strong. So I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who's ever been a guest on the podcast, anybody who's ever came in contact with the podcast because of, someone shared it with you or you looked it up and you were interested. I wanted to thank everybody who has made all these seasons possible. Another thing that is really cool that the podcast has made, momentum with is its listeners. And Listen Notes is a website that takes all of the downloads from your podcast and puts it into a ranking system. And so, for a while, Rough Edges was one of the top 10% most popular shows globally. And I just recently found out that it is now in the top 5% of most popular shows globally. So I'm very excited about that. Rough Edges was also featured on the Women Who Podcast magazine cover. So that was really cool. I love the Women Who Podcast magazine. They're doing such amazing work. And I'm honored to have featured on the cover in my birthday month, January. So that was incredible this year. Rough Edges also ranked number 58 in the top 100 mental health podcasts on Good Pods. That is something that I'm also very, very excited about. I also participated in the Worthy Writers Summit with Kirsten, and I did a video all about how to envision your life beyond your diagnosis. I also participated in Podcastathon, where it was highlighting small businesses, organizations, and I got to do a podcast with my girl Brianna Miller for the I Affirm Me LLC, and we talked about her business and how it's helping Christian women learn more about their insecurities and step into the purpose that God has for them. And also, speaking of I Affirm Me, I also was a panelist on the Step Into It conference, where I got to share how my mental health journey helped me to start Rough Edges and really share more about how my faith journey informed all of that as well. And on social media, we have been making headway. There was a very popular video that I did with my girl Marilette Sanchez, and it was called I'm a Christian with Bipolar. And that has exploded, especially on TikTok. And I've enjoyed the engagements, I've enjoyed the feedback, and I've also enjoyed just like getting to know more people through that avenue. And also Instagram, we've been seeing traction as well. And this year went from being in the 800s to being in the 900s now. So hopefully by the end of the year or even into next year, we could get into the thousands, which is something that I was just so happy with. Chapter 4 is all about learning how to find my voice. And I think that with the momentum that the podcast has gained, I have found my voice, but I want to be able to do more things in terms of getting into YouTube, doing more videos, doing more collaborations. And so that's really the next chapter I want to start in terms of doing more collaborative work on Rough Edges. And so, wrapping up, I love podcasting. And that was something that I didn't even think that I wanted to do in the beginning. And now I'm just in love with it. I love speaking to other people, hearing their stories, sharing my story on other people's podcasts. And it's just been an amazing journey, and I really hope that we continue to go higher and expand, and even continue to help people feel less alone in their journeys. Happy 4 years, Rough Edges, and here's to many, many more. And I hope you all stay tuned for more empowering episodes on Rough Edges. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. If you want more updates on the podcast, you can follow on Instagram at rough.edges.podcast, or you can visit the official podcast website at roughedgespodcast.com. Thanks again for listening and have a wonderful day.